This video will talk about the pen grip and drawing that here to look as it does on our barrel bottom. You must have open your barrel bottom. So we are going to create this pen grip using the barrel bottom. Okay, so we want to make sure this is open. Once it's open, we are going to create a new component and we are going to call it pen grip. Now I'm going to call mine pen grip 3, simply because, again, I've done this a handful of times. When you do that, you see it will gray out the barrel bottom. Over here in the browser, how you know the component that's active is that you have this little dot next to it. And so we want to make sure that pen grip is active like you see there. Now I'm going to rotate this a little bit this way, and I'm going to zoom in because what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a sketch on this larger circle. So I'm going to go to create sketch on this larger circle here, and it's going to rotate. I'm going to create a circle, and the diameter of this circle is going to be 0.465, or the same size as one we had made previously. Okay, let me rotate it here so you can see it. 0.465, which is the inside of that. Okay, now to make sure it's the correct diameter, I am going to select the dimension tool, click on it, and make sure it is 0.465 inches. Now, I'm going to create another circle with that same center. I'm going to intentionally make it way bigger than it needs to be because I don't want it to snap to anything. When we create shapes on Fusion 360 and they inadvertently snap to things as we create them, it causes a whole bunch of problems. So I want to make sure this doesn't snap to anything. Then I want to choose my dimensioning tool, and I want to make sure I choose the 0.465 diameter circle I just created and the new one, and the difference between those two is 0.05, and it will look like that. I'm going to finish the sketch. Let me go back to my home view here. All right, we're going to create another sketch. I'm going to zoom in here, and the sketch we create, we want it to be on this larger lip edge right here. So I'm going to go to create sketch on that larger face right there. Okay, now again, I'm going to rotate this a little bit so we can have a better idea of where we're at. I'm going to draw a circle centered right there. And this circle is going to be 0.56 in diameter. So again, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make sure I get that. 0.56, good. And then again, I'm going to make another circle that's intentionally a little bit larger than it needs to be. I don't want it to snap to anything. And again, the difference between the circle we just created, and I want to zoom in and make sure I pick the previous circle, not this outside, the one that we just drew. And the difference between those two is also 0.05. And I'm going to finish the sketch. Now what we're going to do, similar to what we did with the barrel bottom, is we're going to use the loft command to connect these two rings. I'm going to turn the visibility of the barrel bottom off so we can see this a little bit better. And I am going to rotate this a little bit, and I am going to create a loft. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in here because I want to make sure this circle I choose both parts. And then this other circle, I want to make sure I choose, again, there's two parts here, but I want to make sure I only choose the outside ring. Click OK. You can see we've created a solid. We're going to come back later and we will hollow that out. I'm going to turn the visibility of my barrel bottom back on so we can kind of see where that is placed there. Now, on the grip, there's these little ovals. Okay, so that's what we're going to work on creating next. I'm going to construct a tangent plane, And I'm just going to click on the pen grip and click OK. Now, how I want to look at this is I want to look at it in this direction here, like so. So make sure you rotate it so that it says on your view cube here, right side, right, and it says it right side up. I'm going to create a sketch on that plane. All right, and so here is where it'll rotate us out a little bit. So I want to make sure I want to rotate this so that it looks like that. There we go. All right, so after you create the sketch on the plane, it might rotate it funny. We want to make sure we are in this orientation here. All right, I'm going to create an ellipse. All right, now when I go down here, I don't want to snap it to anything. Okay, I want to make sure I don't get like that green box. Right, I'm going to place it a little bit below that green line. And again, I'm just going to draw it out maybe this far. Again, I don't want it to snap to anything. And there it did. All right, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to try it again. Create ellipse. There we go. From here to here. Boom. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to open it up for the smaller axis. Again, I don't want it to snap anywhere, so something around that will be okay. Because we're going to place it and dimension it. The first thing we're going to do is come up here to the constraints menu, and we're going to choose the horizontal vertical constraint. And I'm going to click the center of the ellipse and the origin. All right, so now those are lined up. Next, I'm going to choose the dimensioning tool, and I'm going to dimension from the origin here to the end point on my ellipse. All right, let me try that again. So click my dimensioning tool. Make sure you choose the end of the ellipse first. That was a problem. And then here, we want that distance to be 0.05. Now, the size of your ellipse may change at that point. That's okay, because we are going to dimension that ellipse at this point. So the longer of the two axes, so from here to here, I want that to be 0.7. And then the shorter of the two axes, from here to here, I want that distance to be 0.115. 115. Then I'm going to go ahead and click Finish Sketch. Put in that isometric view, and there we have our ellipse. We're going to extrude this in as a cut. So I'm going to extrude, all right, and then I'm going to pull that arrow in a little bit, and it's going to default the cut. And I want that to go in negative 0.02 inches. Right, and we'll just go in just a tiny amount right there. Next, we're going to pattern this all the way around. So create pattern, circular. Now, just so that when I click on here, I don't select the wrong thing, I can actually come down to the timeline, and I'm going to click on the extrusion. Now, the only way that will work is to make sure your object type is features. Right? And I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to click the extrusion. It'll automatically click that feature. Axis. Now, I want this blue axis here, but the pen barrel's or the barrel bottom's in the way. So I'm going to turn off the visibility of the barrel bottom, come in here, and now I'm able to click that axis. And the quantity I want to be 6. And click OK. And there we can see that it has created that pattern around the pen grip. Okay, now we want to hollow this out. So I'm going to come up to Shell. I'm going to pick the two ends. And we want to shell that 0.035. Okay, 0.035. And now, there's a problem. Because when we do this, we can see on the inside it's not smooth. Okay, we have those kind of those cut-ins there. Okay, from the pattern we created. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time. I am going to undo the shell. And I can either come up here to the undo arrow, or I can come down here and I can right click and delete. Either way will delete the shell, but I want to get it back to that solid state. Then I'm going to drag this right here down in my timeline, and I'm going to drag it back to right after where we created the tangent plane. And so the sketch of the ellipse is going to disappear. And what we're going to do is we're going to shell at this point. So I'm going to come up to shell. I'm going to pick the front. I'm going to rotate it around and pick the back. 0.035. Click OK. And then I'm going to move that back forward. And now you can see the inside is nice and smooth. All right, so we're done creating it. Now let's change the material. So I'm going to right click on the pen grip, go to physical material. I'm going to go down to plastic. And this is more of a rubber. So I'm going to scroll down until I get to rubber. Right here. We'll go rubber silicone, the white. Drag and drop it over. Okay, I'll close that out. Right click again. Let's change the appearance. Okay, so for the appearance, go to paint, glossy. All right, and I want this to be orange, but there's no orange. So I'm going to drag the red over. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to right click on the red and click duplicate. Now you'll notice when it's duplicated, it has that little 1. So I'm going to right click on that and click edit. I'm going to change that to say orange. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the slider and then move that up to where the orange shade I want is. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to drag and drop it. Click close. And now I have my orange barrel. I'm going to turn my barrel bottom back on so we can see the whole thing. All right, now notice it's still grayed out. If I come all the way up to the top and click that dot, now you can see the whole thing as it's intended to be seen. This is the first sub-assembly of the Carabiner pen. These two elements, though, we don't want to be able to move off of each other. So we are going to create a joint between the two. So I'm going to come up here to Assemble, As Built Joint. We want that joint type to be rigid, and I'm just going to click on the pen grip and then on the barrel bottom. And if I preview the motion by clicking that, it'll show they're not going to disconnect from each other, and then click OK. And then the last thing, I'm going to come over here into the browser. I'm going to ground the barrel bottom. So I'm going to right click and pick ground. And then make sure you save it. And there's your first sub-assembly.